Hello, and welcome to the London United Filmmaker Podcast. My name is Greg Randolph. Today, I'm happy to have Anna Savinova on. We speak about growing up in Moscow, Russia, her London Film School grad film, 10 Days, and some upcoming work she's done professionally. Anastasia Savinova, thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker Podcast on this evening. I know you were biking a little bit. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, I haven't seen you in a little bit. You've been super busy with your grad film, 10 Days. It's having some really amazing success recently. I really want to talk about kind of presently what's going on with you. But as we've kind of been doing on the podcast, I like to start with the beginnings. So my question is, can you tell me a little bit about what got you into filmmaking and what were kind of the initial draws to this life that we're living now, where we're making films and kind of spending hours making all these awesome things happen? I'm curious.
Well, I guess that could be a long story. I've always made fun of how people tell that they've been, doing some films since they were little kids. But you know what? The fact is, I think I got my first camera, like a DV camera, when I was maybe around 10 or 12. And I'm originally from Russia, so that wasn't a thing at the time. It was like a very rare thing that I got it. I think my grandpa went somewhere, brought to Japan and somewhere and brought it from there. So it was like, wow. And during the summer holiday break, we started just making little horror films with friends. That was fun. And then sort of idea of going into filmmaking was growing up in my head. But as I went into towards the end of the school years, my parents didn't really support this idea. They were like, well, we don't know anyone from filmmaking. You have to know someone to make a career there. And that is just a weird idea. How are you going to earn money? Let's find something more practical. And at the same time, I was sort of involved in a school newspaper as well.
Sure.
So that's how we came up with the idea of trying out journalism. And in order to get to a uni in Russia in journalism at that time, you had to actually have some work experience in a proper newspaper or any proper media.
Sure.
So I started working in a newspaper for teenagers, and
Cool.
I really enjoyed it. It was good fun. I was just visiting different events and writing articles about it. It was good, and I was like, okay, well, that could be a career. So I originally did a BA in journalism, and after that, I worked as a journalist for quite some time. I actually started out on the radio, and I've built quite a successful career there. I've moved from social things and culture towards politics.
Sure.
And I was present at a lot of events like G7, which at that time was G8, because it was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
Before they excluded Russia, it used to be G8, and now it's G7. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm that old. Yeah.
Wow. Same. Wow.
G20, and I've traveled various BRICS summits and all that things, and I've been to Olympic Games as well. So
cool.
No, it was great. But then eventually I sort of, first of all, the situation in Russia changed, so I didn't feel like working in journalism anymore. I worked as a ghostwriter for a few years, and I was just figuring out what shall I do next? And at that time I was like, well, I've always wanted to give it a try in filmmaking, and I never actually got to fulfill this dream. So I thought, well, if not now, when is going to be the time? So I started film school when I turned 30.
Yeah, that's how it is sometimes, Totally cool.
I thought okay, well, I've earned some money, I've gained some experience, so I can give it a try now, take a career break and just study for a little bit. And I really enjoy it. I know because we both graduated from the London Film School, and I know that a lot of people, I think people have different experiences there, and I know that a lot of people are not quite happy, and I am actually one of those few who are really happy with the experience.
I think so, yeah.
I think I just took the most out of it, and I get from the very beginning, from my term 1, I get involved in so many projects, and term 4 projects and other projects, and I just gain a lot of experience through that. And I produced my first grad film when I was in term 3.
Wow. I didn't know that.
At the same time, I was also directing my own Tom 3 documentary, like literally at the same time. It was like both filmings were on the same week. Not a good idea.
What was the film the grad film? What grad film were you producing?
Oh my God, how was it called? Oh, that's an embarrassing moment.
Who was the director or?
The director was Catherine Collins,
okay.
and the name of the film was well, I'll have to get. I'm really terrible with names.
We can put it in the below in the paragraph below or something like that. It's totally fine.
I mean,
obviously you were busy, so you had a lot going on. So it's easy.
No, I'm just really terrible with any sort of names. So that's an embarrassing moment here.
No, that's fine. And also it's like a little like almost 8:00 at night. So yeah, we're getting to this late after work, just trying to fit in as much as we can. So it's totally fine. Well, that's amazing. I mean, I think we've already got like a really awesome snapshot of. Here he is.
I remember the film was called the beginning and end of everything. That's
the beginning and end of everything. All right. What was the experience of that like? What was it like producing a grad film in term 3, which is legit not even a year into the program? You were working on documentary. Term 3 is documentary, and you're producing a grad film. What was it like producing a grad film at that time? Was it based in the UK?
Yeah, it was based in London. It was mostly shot in the pub. I've just recently been in this pub because someone was celebrating their birthday. And I was like, oh my God, I've shot there.
Cool.
It was great fun. It was a little bit stressful, but mostly because I had to have my own documentary filming on the same week. And I've like being myself, I prioritized other people projects more than my own, so my documentary didn't go too well.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. Yeah, where you put your, there's only so much bandwidth,
But I learned a lot. It was great team working there, so I got some connections. It was good experience. I mean, I've been involved in like production in other grad films before I produced that one.
Yeah.
But this one, like my first sort of solo producer. Technically, we had a co-producer, but she's great. And at the time when I was filming, she basically took over. But I think maybe she had a little less experience because she was from screenwriting. So she had a little less practical experience, sure. And we've hit a few bumps on the road,
But that's how
it is. The film got done.
Yeah. Amazing. So my question is, you're from? Can you tell us where in Russia are you from?
I'm from Moscow.
Moscow. Okay. What was it like? What was it like growing up in Moscow? It's like such a beautiful city. I've been before, but. You've given me a little bit of that feeling of what it was like, and also like along with that question, was there? I know that it sounds like you got a DV camera at some point, but like, was there a specific movie or a specific person that kind of was instrumental in that? Did you say your grandmother gave you, or who gave you?
My grandpa brought it from like a trip abroad or something.
Very cool. That's very cool. But yeah, no, I'm curious. I just wanted to know. I want to know a little bit more about what that experience was like. I mean, it sounds like kind of again like making horror films. All that. A lot of us kind of come from that background. But if you have any more details about that, I'm curious.
I actually really want to find this film and just watch it at some point. But I don't know. I'm not sure if possible. But I'd really love to do that. I think it's going to be a good laugh. But it was just about hanging out with friends. I didn't have any like understanding about filmmaking. I'm not even sure we had a written script. I probably had like an idea, and I remember though that once the film was done, we did like a proper advertising campaign.
Yeah.
Because it was like just outside of in a country house just outside of Moscow. So we've put like we've made posters, printed the posters, put them out. I think we made like a newspaper to advertise it as well.
Oh, cool.
Or something. So like a proper cross advertisement on different platforms.
That's cool.
But yeah, what the film was about, I'm not actually quite sure. I think it was like about a family, and like a classic horror film. They like go on a trip or something, and then weird things start happening, like furniture moves, and then
in this film
blinks.
You made. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
But I'm not really. I don't remember what was it like. Any much of the details.
And from it. No, I was talking even further about a movie you watched that when you were young, or that specifically spoke to you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't think. I think I've only started like watching, those sort of proper classic movies when I was in my maybe from 15 to 16, but before that I was just watching the TV and whatever was on TV, and the videotapes as well.
For sure.
I had like a few childhood films that I really liked, like a Beethoven one. There was a few of them, so nothing really special.
Sure.
I remember how I watched Jaws for the first time.
Yeah.
I was a really, really little kid, and I got so scared. Like my parents didn't allow me, but then I just sort of crawled there really quickly, like really quietly to like peek from around the door, and then I couldn't sleep afterwards.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty scary stuff. Yeah, that shark. When you're a kid. Oh my God. Awesome. I feel like I've really gotten a good idea of a little bit of your background and kind of how filmmaking kind of crept up on you a little bit. And then I think there was this moment that sounds like you just thought, well, let me try film school. Let me see what we can do. So it sounds like you had an eventful term 3. And I guess kind of where I'd like to go from here is to kind of talking about presently what's happening with you in regards to filmmaking and what you've been up to. So we can fast forward a little bit to your grad film and just what's been going on with it. I'm wondering, can you just tell the audience, can you just tell us a little bit about your grad film and what it's about and, just your experience working on it?
Well, my grad film is a quite long story too, because I was supposed to graduate in like 2022, I think, because my term 6, the last course where we had any classes, finished in like December 2021, which was quite a while ago.
Sure.
So I was working on my grad film, which was a completely different story, and I went to scout to Russia because I thought, okay, I really want to go back home and film it there because it's like an authentic story. I'm a foreigner here. I don't really have like a lot of stories that I can make here, so I'd rather go there. So I went to scout there in February 2022, and that's where when the war started. Yeah. So I got stuck for a little bit there. Then I eventually made it back to London.
Wow.
And I was just I don't know. I think the whole world just changed for me, so I couldn't really think of working on that story anymore. Plus I couldn't film it. I didn't want to film anything in Russia anymore, so I was like, okay, I want to do something else. And I think for like at least half a year I've been like in sort of a shock, and I was focused more on like volunteering and sort of helping anyhow like Ukrainians or doing something just for the community.
Yes,
that was my focus at that time. So I like postponed the graduation. I've worked on produced a few grad films though. At the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I sorry, I don't even mean to leave that out. You've got such an incredible body of work as far as producing, and I'd love to hear more about that as well. I guess to me the 10 days just is such a highlight, and I saw it at last year's graduation showcase and I was just so blown away by it, so I wanted you to speak a little bit about it. But absolutely, we got to talk about the films you've produced since term 3, the ones you probably were able to spend a little bit more time on and focus on. But I figure we just start with 10 days just to
there was like a long preamble towards the making of 10 days, and as I was like producing other people grad films and like doing some volunteering work plus doing some other work, I was also thinking, okay, what is this new story I'm gonna work on?
Got it.
And I wanted to make it related to the war, but at the same time I didn't feel like, as a Russian citizen, I don't have like a say in this. It's a little bit odd of a position to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to like make a film about good Russians as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find like some story that would reflect current situation in Russia, without like making it look like I'm making a film about good Russians. Yeah. So in the end, I did quite some research. I watched a lot of documentaries. I was just in touch with like everyone I know in Russia to find some story there. So in the end, I decided to focus on a Russian family. Yeah. As the conflict broke, a lot of my friends had like conflicts within their families, just because they supported different sides. All of my friends like supported Ukraine, and generally younger generation supports Ukraine. However, people who live in Russia, like older generation, they do support Russian government. A lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the conflict comes from. And like literally people just, I don't know, they stop talking to their parents and to their grandparents. And it was just really blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Plus there was another feeling that I was trying to relate to is when the war started, as I mentioned, I got stuck in Russia.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely astonished by how people behaved there when the war started. Basically, it's a neighboring country.
Mm-hmm.
People are getting killed there.
Yeah.
And what people in Moscow were caring about is like, oh, this shop is going to close because this brand is leaving Russia. So we need to go and buy this clothes or whatever, this furniture, like IKEA is leaving.
Consumerist kind of.
Absolutely. So they were absolutely focused on their lives and like how to keep living and how to keep going. And I was just, I don't know, I had no words how to describe it.
Beside
I couldn't
yourself,
I couldn't believe it. It was just, I was like, I couldn't believe it really. Like it looked like no one really cared about the war and about like Ukrainians and people dying.
Like blocking it and,
Yeah.
and putting it in like a quadrant of your mind that
Yeah.
has to do with like clothes or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating, like all the different, and this is really, really kind of captivating to hear because you're one of the only really first-person accounts, someone who lived and grew up in Russia who I've been able to speak with. So I'm telling you, this it's just so eye-opening to hear. It's something you maybe think a little bit about, but so interesting to hear when you really are speaking with your friends and family and your perspective. And I think that's what makes 10 Days so amazing is that you're speaking, you have a true perspective on it, and that's what everyone needs, But yeah, sorry, continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, I almost got there. So this is how I came up with the idea, trying to, get this feeling through that what I've experienced myself when I was at this first couple of weeks at the beginning of the war in Russia, what I witnessed there. I just focused on the family story and about a family breakup, we can call, I guess. Basically they go apart and the family collapses. As the war starts, and that's what the story is about. So it is about the war, but at the same time, human relationships are at the center of it. So that's always been my goal to like see how people interact and study that. And that's what 10 Days is about. Is about a Russian family who collapses as the war breaks out, just because some of them support the war and others don't.
I think, it's a great summation of what the film's about. Can you talk a little bit about, so it sounds like you were back in Russia for a little bit, you came back here, decided to produce some films to kind of find that story. When I want to come back to the producing, but I want to stay on 10 Days for now. Can you talk about the production and kind of, it sounds like you started to nurture this idea and write this story. Can you talk about actually getting the crew together and finding the different pieces and then shooting it? And can you talk about the production a little bit and just maybe challenges or things that you learned that you didn't know before? Really curious in that part of the process.
Well, I think we got like a draft of a script, more or less shootable draft of the script by the end of summer 2022. So like relatively quickly, I guess, in filmmaking terms, because I started working on it from, I don't know, like maybe spring of 2022.
Yeah.
And then we started thinking, okay, where do we film it? Because I didn't want to film in Russia.
Yeah.
Not only I didn't want to go there and bring the crew, but I also didn't want to bring their money because all the money is coming from either from school than from the money that I've earned in the UK. And I just don't want to go there because in the end, it will end up in like sponsoring the war basically. Yeah. So I wanted to avoid that. However, I knew this story has to be shot in Russian. So we needed Russian-speaking actors.
Yeah.
At first the decision was to film in Latvia, and I even went to scout there, I think in autumn of 2022. However, as I was in Latvia, they announced that they're not gonna and they're going to deny entry to Russian citizens with like tourist visas. So neither myself nor like some other people from the crew or cast would be able to travel there anymore.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, great. Now we have to change the country. And at that time, I deferred my gradation because I think my time.
Okay.
I didn't have any more time left, so I had to like defer and ask for a little bit of extension because after we realized we can't film in Latvia, we were on a search for another country. We were considering maybe building a set of a Russian flat. The film is set completely in a Russian flat.
Yeah.
So we were thinking about maybe building it here in the UK. But then the problem was bringing some of the actors who had Russian passports. They would then need a UK visa, which is quite expensive and also like about 3 months to make.
So you casted some of the actors are from Russia.
Yes, the lead actress, she lives and works in Russia still. Okay. And then originally we casted 3 other actors from Estonia, and they work there in a Russian-speaking theater. So they are Russian-speaking people. One of them, however, has a Russian citizen, and 2 others had an Estonian citizen.
Okay.
So the story has a lead actress who is a girl in her like 20s, her mother and her grandparents. So originally the girl was casted in Russia, and then it wasn't that easy to find someone because a lot of people just didn't want to get involved in the project because they were afraid that it's going to like ruin their career or something. And then we found this girl who was absolutely stunning, and at the same time it was really important for her to take part in the project because she couldn't really protest anymore at the time because the Russian government completely stopped any activity of that type. And it was like a form of protest for her to take part in the film. And then 2 weeks before filming, an actor whom we casted for grandfather had a heart attack. He's okay now, but obviously he couldn't travel, so we had to recast, and we ended up finding a grandfather here in London. He used to work as an actor. He's from Belarus originally, so he speaks Russian as well. He used to work as an actor, and then after moving to London, I think he eventually started working as a bus driver. But he's really great. He's a really talented actor. Yeah, and we were really lucky to get him.
Happy accidents, unfortunately. I hope he's all better. Your previous cast, but I thought he totally was nailed the role. From my perspective.
And then at some point, maybe a month before filming, it was actually really difficult to get to pin the dates because this lead actress, she works quite a lot in the theater, so we had to adjust to her theater schedule. The actress who plays mom is quite a famous actress in Russia,
sure.
So she also had a very busy schedule, and we had to then find some common days. And with all this, about a month into production, we even didn't know where we're going to film it still. Well, we knew it couldn't be London or anywhere in the UK because of the visa issues. So we were looking for countries that would still allow us to go there without any visa restrictions. At the same time, we had some Soviet aesthetics. So this is how we ended up in Serbia.
Got it.
And I'm really grateful for, all our Serbian part of production, Serbian crew, and our Serbian production designer. They've been absolutely amazing. And I think that when we ended up, we were looking at Moldova and Serbia at the same time,
sure,
and trying to find some local production who would help us pull this all
because you don't have any contacts there really,
no.
So you were really reaching into whatever production company might be around. Wow, that's a challenge.
And once we found someone in Serbia, we decided, we are going to Serbia. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the shooting day. So we had the shooting days, we had cast, and we didn't have anything else. And then
how many days?
2-3 weeks before filming.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was really stressful. I know. And
where are we getting the tickets?
Somewhere along the way, we also lost an actor. Had to recast the grandfather. We didn't have that.
Good God.
Then the Serbian crew really did an amazing job. We found this flat.
The flat's very nice.
Yeah. Well, however, when we found it, it was all white walls.
Paint it?
Well, we had to wallpaper it all.
Got it.
And then remove it after the filming.
Oh boy.
But then it still was. I mean, because Serbia does have this Soviet background.
Sure.
So it was still possible to find like a lot of elements, and I think to my taste the flat looks quite real, as like a flat in Russia could look.
Sure.
And that's all thanks to production design, because it was all white walls.
Nice.
So I think we'd like maybe a week and a half before filming we found this flat finally. Then maybe I think about 2 days. Yeah, it took them 2 days to decorate it.
Yep.
And they didn't make it.
Bad. That's pretty good. You must,
Yeah, no, it's incredibly fast, and they actually didn't make because it was really ambitious. The plans about redecorating the flats were really ambitious. I remember the night before filming, as I was leaving, it was I think only 1 room out of 3 rooms was ready or something, and I was like, well, don't know what we're gonna do tomorrow. So then our production designers team were like wallpapering the whole night without stop, and then when I came back in the morning, all the rooms that we needed for that day were ready.
Amazing.
I was amazed as well. I didn't expect that happening. I was just
the production design team was Serbian.
Well, no, we had two, like, lead production designer was from Serbia. However, we had our friend Abby from Halifax, who is originally from the US. Oh. So we had like a Serbian US
Abby,
production.
Remind me, Abby. Did you say Abby?
Yeah, Quinlan.
I don't know if I don't know if I've met her, but that's amazing. So you had her as part of the team from school. Great. Very cool.
Yeah, and so we had like a Serbian American people trying to put together a Russian looking flat. That was quite an interesting experience.
Sounds like a joke or something like that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I'm curious about the other parts of the camera team. Where did you find your DOP?
Well, I knew him for some time. I think most of my team from the UK are graduates from the London Film School.
Oh, okay, great.
So they graduated like, I don't know, 7 years ago, some time. So they've been working in the industry for quite some time.
Fantastic.
So I knew Norbert from my producer.
Okay.
And then I also met the editor the same way. And they all started at Halifax about 7 years ago or something.
That's great. Absolutely. It all shows, the experience. Absolutely. Very, very wise. Fantastic. Can I ask, okay, so wow, you made it happen. I'm sure it was a fun, how many days of shooting was it?
4 days.
4 days. Wow, that's relatively quick. That's really amazing. Once everything was wrapped and everything was in the bag and you had what was the experience in post-production like? Was it much more simple, kind of after all of the kind of busyness of finding a location and all this stuff? What was the post-production process like of your grad?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So my editor, Razvan, he also graduated from London Film School, and he's a really experienced editor. He's originally from Romania, so he doesn't speak any Russian.
Okay.
And he delivered us like a first cut quite promptly, I think like maybe in a couple of days.
Wow.
And it was a really good first cut.
Yeah, nice.
And when I watched it, I was like amazed. I was like, he must have lied me. He probably speaks Russian, because like the cuts that he made made a lot of sense. Like, for example, when there was like some, I don't know, heating in the argument, he like put a closer shots in there.
Nice.
And it all worked so smoothly. I was like really impressed.
Very
I think
nice.
some scenes we didn't really change after he cut it like in cut one. Like a lot of scenes some scenes we amended obviously, but others just stayed as they were in cut one.
Fantastic! Wow. So it sounds like it was kind of a downhill after all the busyness of working on set. That's really great. It's always such a relief when you get a first cut you're really liking. That's so cool. So that's a great kind of quick understanding of 10 days. Just to name a few of the festivals you've recently been at. Brest European Short Film Festival. It got into Lake County Film Festival, Cambridge Film Festival, Festival International Ciné de Nuit in Paris, and I'm sure many more coming up. Are there any festivals that are coming up that 10 days will be in that have been announced?
Yeah, well, there are a few festivals. I'm just not really good in announcing things. I'm actually going to the festival this upcoming weekend again. I'm going to Newcastle to Northeast International Film Festival, another BIFA qualifying festival for 10 days. So
oh my God,
really
exciting. This is a great little path. You never know. And my question is, what's the festival? What has that scene been like? You told me a really funny story about when you were in Brighton, and you told me a story about you were screening at a Ukrainian film festival or
Oh no, that's a Brighton Rocks International Film Festival, which is just another BIFA qualifying festival. But then within the festival, they made this special program, which is called Ni Vojni, which is in translation from Ukrainian is just no to war.
Nice.
And it happened so that there was 10 days, which is the film which shows the war from a Russian perspective, basically.
Right.
And then with the rest of the films were showing the war from the Ukrainian perspective. Not necessarily they were made by Ukrainian filmmakers. A lot of them were like made by British directors. I think most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were showing some stories from within the Ukraine. Others were showing stories about Ukrainian refugees here in the UK. But anyhow, they were all shot from like a Ukrainian perspective, and it was a really odd experience for me to be honest. I'm really grateful for the festival for like making this bold move and actually including this film in the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had to do this disclaimer at the beginning. Before the screening, they literally had to go on stage and say, hey, sorry, we actually have a film made by a Russian filmmaker here. But yeah, it was a good film, so we decided to include it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for them to make this bold move. And there were a few... so there was it was a mixed program of fiction and documentary, and the last film that they screened this program was a documentary about Ukrainian. I think I'm not really good at music styles. I think it's punk rock all girls group or something.
Syrian?
Punk rock or some sort of heavy metal style.
Sure.
All girls Ukrainian group.
Yeah, okay.
And the group was actually there for the screening.
Oh.
And some of them traveled from Ukraine as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Great.
so standing on one stage with them, I felt really like bad because I think it was quite a painful experience for them.
Okay.
Overall, just watching all these stories about what Ukraine and Ukrainians have been through. Plus, on top of it, as a cherry on top, there was this film showing the Russian perspective, which... I mean, yeah, it's just those people who don't care, and I guess it's really difficult. It can be really difficult to watch it. So yeah.
I'm sure. At the same time, I'm glad that they're showing a film like yours at the way you're describing the festival that it was shown at, because I do think it's important to see, and I think your perspective it's a strong Russian perspective in regards to that. It is very sympathetic towards the Ukrainian cause, right? And I think and again, I think it's just the honesty of it at the end of the day, whether you're pro-Russia or pro-Ukraine. Like, I do think that there's...
well, I am not.
No, but...
just for the record.
Neither am I, but it's... but I think the honesty is key, because that's the only way we're going to understand each other. And I think actually that's kind of... For me, that's a big reason I do this, is because whatever your perspective might be, you should be able to show it. And I think that's part of what filmmaking is. It's not just saying, listen, this is what I do, this is what I think, this is how I am. It's, let me show you how someone like me is like.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking that Russia is, rightfully cut off from many processes in Europe and the rest of the world now. And because I had this experience of being in Russia at the beginning of the war, I don't know, I still can't really find the words to describe it. It was just absolutely horrendous watching all those people with no empathy whatsoever. And I think this experience would always stay with me. And I just wanted to make a story about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to show how it is being within Russia. And at the same time, there are like a lot of people who still stay in Russia because they can't leave for like various reasons.
Yeah.
Sometimes financial, sometimes some other reasons. And they're just surrounded by these, unempathetic people, and they have to keep living there. Yeah. And it's difficult for them too. I mean, obviously, you can't compare that to what the Ukrainians are going through, but still, I just wanted to show how it is, what it is, the modern day Russia. That was the goal of this.
Yeah, it's very healthy. It's a very healthy communication of perspective. It's just so key in getting any type of making sense of anything at this point. in a world that it seems so. But that's a whole other podcast. Is like the reason we're communicating and why that's a healthy thing and why more people should do it and stuff like that. That's something else. Mike, I think we've got a great perspective for your grad film now. I wonder, we got to touch a little bit on your producing. You know, we got to touch on that. What can you tell me something about your experiences producing? How many grad films have you produced?
Yo.
I looked at the list. It was a lot.
I guess somewhere around 10 maybe.
And can I ask you any takeaways? What's been your takeaway as a producer? You know, I've produced only just a few, so you got me beat by a long shot. But what do you think a producer brings to the table at the level we're at, making these grad films from London Film School? And I think there's so many different types of producers out there and the way they kind of go about doing things. But in your style of producing, what do you offer to a director or to the rest of the team?
Well, I like to consider myself as being like a support to the director in making their vision happen.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think at this level of, you know, like very low budget or student films, it's really important to care about the crew. And I like bringing like empathy, at least trying to bring empathy and kindness, because people are either working for free or like working for very little money. And I think, you know, like you have to care and consider that because they're working often 12-hour days or even longer. And it's a really difficult jobs that they're doing, and at the end of it, it's a director who's going to get the most benefit because you know, if the film is going to be successful, the director is going to get all the credit. So maybe there could be like some HODs, but then rest of the people who are doing really like heavy jobs, I don't know, grips, sparks, gaffers, I don't know, production design assistants, all these people who are working long hours and doing really like physically tough jobs. I just like, you know, to care and appreciate their work, and I guess I'll money is important, and obviously it's really important to stay within the budget, and I think I've sort of made it work most of the times.
Great.
But at the same time, I really like care and consider people, and like I like directors to be considerable about that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. I think paying attention to the people is like is a nice skill for the producers to have. Sometimes I think directing is a little bit, you're shepherding the film in like a very intimate way, and the producer's meant to kind of be there to be like, make sure the director can stay there, and they're the ones that are going to make sure the people are really supported, because it's very key. It's like very much a big part of keeping the raft afloat and keeping everyone really high, keeping that morale high and things like that. That's great. I feel like I've got a nice little tidbit of your producing experience. I want to talk about the future a little bit, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the work you're doing now. I realize you've recently started at the BBC. Is that correct?
Yes, I did start at the BBC. So I'm doing this scheme that allows me to be trained for production manager. Which is really great because, you know, in our industry, you have to start from very bottom. Yeah. And yes, I do have experience of like producing short films, working as a production coordinator, production manager on like commercials and music videos. But when you go to like a larger scale productions, not that it doesn't count at all, but then they still want you to start from some lower positions.
Sure.
And this is a really great chance, you know, to work with people who work at the top and like learn how to manage those projects properly, learn how to work with larger budgets. And that's what I'm doing now. So wow. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm doing like, you know, and then the way they work is that they juggle a few projects at the same time. That's what I'm learning to do now as well. You know, few budgets, few projects. So yeah, no, it's been really cool. I've just started like, I think just over 2 months ago. So wow. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. That's huge. So congratulations with that. I can't wait to hear more, you know, down the line. Maybe we can do one of these again, or again, I want to do these in the round. We can talk about 10 days. I'd love to like watch the film with some of the other people who helped make it and just discuss it, break it down a little bit more. I guess like just in wrapping up, really what's the future for you? I mean, you've got such a talent as a writer director, you know, it'd be a shame to not see more of that work at some point in the future. But again, I think me and you both kind of see producing as a little bit more kind of making ends meet and things like that. It just seems like there's maybe more opportunities. I mean, that just makes sense in my head. But BBC sounds like it's just boom, right there, right now, and you can just work on that. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of clear to me in my mind. Kind of clear how you've got 10 days. You're just at the beginning, I think, of this film festival experience. I think it's going to go to a lot of different places, and I think maybe one day, knock on wood, you could be standing on some podium somewhere and with some.
Well, I've just been on one in Brest. It's been a really great experience.
Well, what can you talk? What was the award that did or just being there? Just being there was...
Yeah, I think it's been a really rewarding experience of itself because it's a really, I think it's the second biggest short film festival in Europe.
Yeah.
Brest European Short Film Festival. And I think like French people are just cut differently. It's amazing. You know, there's like a cinema for 1,000 seats. And I think at least half of it was full all the time.
Wow.
It was just ordinary people coming to watch short films. I've never seen anything like that in the UK.
Sure.
It was such a huge interest, and I was just amazed by that. I was like, oh wow, so many people are actually interested in what we up and coming filmmakers made. It was really rewarding. And then we had this amazing time just introducing the film on this huge stage in front of a huge screen, like a proper filmmakers, and then like an hour Q&A session sitting there on the stage and just answering the questions from audience and from the moderator. And it was like an amazing experience with like also a lot of parties, meeting other fellow filmmakers, watching an amazing selection of films. There was such a strong selection of films. I really felt like, honored to be there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, so we've actually made something good if we are in such a good company. So it was really great. And
it's got to be inspiring, right? You have ideas, I'm sure, for things to do, for something to do next.
Well, I've sort of basically separated my life now in two. Let's put it this way, as you've rightly, it's hard to earn money as a director.
Yeah.
So I've sort of earning this for production. Plus, I think it's also a valuable experience in any way for me as a director to know how like larger scale projects operate, how they run. Yeah. And this is like how what is the budget and what can you do and other things. So that is an important anyway. And I do enjoy my job. It's not like just for money. I really enjoy organizing things. I like this Excel tables. I like budgets. So I do enjoy this part as well. But then there is another part which is about creativity. Weirdly enough, I don't actually enjoy writing as much. Yeah. So the script for my grad film was co-written with a writer. My term 5 was co-written with a writer as well. Okay. So I'm sort of working on a few projects. But I'm also, hey, any screenwriters out there, give me a shout.
All right.
I'm also open for new collaborations because writing is a really lonely job.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to manage it on myself, but then if there is someone you can like test ideas and have some brainstorms with, that's always really great. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, I've just set aside some like hours during the week, usually morning hours, when I just sit there. I usually go to a coffee shop. Yep. I've actually heard this on a podcast about how someone like wrote their feature script and they just they were doing full-time job as well. Yeah. And they just set aside some times and they just showed up there and, those 2-3 hours they just dedicated to the script. I was like, yes, I'm going to do that. And you know what? I'm finally doing it now. Yeah.
The discipline of it and just the freedom. I think like the idea, like a part of your mind is a sandbox. You know what I mean? Just have fun with it. Just write. There's no rules. Yeah. There's not really no rules. It's just where your mind goes and what you think is important to say.
Plus, as a freelancer, you always spend some time looking for what's next. What is your next job? So
being inspired, staying, kind of keeping a spark.
Yeah, well, I was more like trying to say about the money part of it, but like as a freelancer, you're always in search for some like new job, and you're like, it takes a lot of time and energy from you. And now that I have a full-time job, it's sort of freed up this time, so I can actually devote it to creativity rather than being nervous, like, am I gonna pay my bills next month?
Yeah. Well, with that being said, Anastasia Savinova, I just want to thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker Podcast. I hope we can talk again soon, and you have a great evening, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you around the bend.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks.